Today is your privilege to say thank you to all of American veterans, to let them know that we appreciate them for their service and honor them for their sacrifices.
The price of freedom is high. We need to honor those who are willing to pay for it. Tomorrow we have a day to celebrate our veterans for keeping this nation the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Now please stand for the singing of the national anthem performed by our North Thurston Choir.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free, and the home of the brave, home of the brave.
Good morning, my name is Daniela Suarez, and I'm the Pacific Regional Military Youth of the Year. That means I represent a lot of military youth across the Pacific region. I know for a fact that being raised in a military home has taught me so much. From my dad coming home from basic with his newfound leadership skills and all of the morals that he was taught in his classes taught me so much about myself and my family as well.
So, my name's Tyler Partram.
And I'm Andrea Looper.
And we're joined today with
Joseph Silva.
And we're here to talk about a little bit about the military support group and honoring our veterans on Veterans Day. So, right now we have a little bit of a questionnaire for Mr. Silva. And we want to know, what is the military support group?
Well, the military support group is a group that helps students that have parents in the military that have deployed or who have retired and who go through stuff like moving around to different schools every 2 years or 4.
Well, the military support group is just a bunch of teens who go to this school who come together as they all have parents who are part of a military family, or they just have family members who are part of a military family. And we come together as a group and we go to meetings. Sometimes we go to outside of the school to spread the word of military support group that can be spread at River Ridge and Timberline. So it's honestly just kids getting to know other kids who are part of a military family.
So how many different places have you lived?
I've lived in 2 different places. I lived in Georgia and South Korea, and here.
Which was your favorite place?
Korea, I was there for like 7 years, so.
I could say about 5, and I guess the best place I've lived was Germany since I was born there. So
Obviously you have family members in the military. Which family members?
My mom is in the military. She's been in the military for about 23 years. My dad retired from the military 24 years.
My mom served for 22 years. No, she only served for 20, and my dad served for 22 so far, but he's going for 30. So.
And as far as you go, do you have any interest in joining the military when you get older?
But I plan on joining the military out of high school. I'm gonna go to college and so they can pay for my college, and then I'll become an officer.
Get older?
I have no interest in joining the military when I get older.
Okay.
It's just something that I didn't really have a future on doing, and I just don't want to be a part of it. So.
All right. And last question is, if there's any piece of advice you could give to someone whose family members were recently deployed, what would you tell them?
What I could say is, I know it's going to be rough, because for me, I remember at one point where my mom and dad were both deployed at the same time. So I know it's going to be rough when you have a parent or a family member who gets deployed, but just keep them in your mind, keep them in your prayers, and just don't think the worst, think the best, and just know that they're going to come back for you. So That's all I could probably say to people who have deployed parents or deployed family members.
All right. Thank you for your time, Keith.
Thank you.
All the campaigns was rough, but the worst one that I think that I participated in, and I'm pretty sure most everybody else would agree, was the Battle of the Bulge.
There's an old man in a uniform at the local Walmart store, selling $3 raffle tickets for a picture on the floor. And as he called me over, I asked him what's it for. He said the local 133 were veterans of 4 and more. But in his mind he wondered if I knew everything that he had to go through. Will you remember all that I've done? Will you remember those that are living now and those that are
I had a chairman
gone?
drop out the thing on top of me, put a knife on my head right here.
So I asked him what the ribbon was there on his chest. He said, back in 45, the Battle of the Bulge. And as I looked at his hands, I could see back in 45, he was fighting for me. Will you remember all that they gave? Will you remember those that are living now and those that are gone?
And I mean, I was scared, and I was just shaking.
So I asked him how it happened back in 45. He just smiled and looked away, said every day I thank God I'm alive. But if you know the story, you can say nuts to them who stand in your way. Will you remember all that I've done? Will you remember those that are living now and those that are
I
gone?
think the Battle of Bulge was the weather element, and the way you had to live on the ground.
He told me that he made it back to these United States, to a country that was thankful for the sacrifices made. And as he sees Old Glory wave in the sun, he said, thank God, my son, for the freedoms we've won. Will you remember all that they gave? Will you remember those that are living now and those that are gone?
enlisted in the Army, New Year's Eve, 1979.
How long did you serve for our country?
6 years.
What advice would you give to someone who is interested in serving for our country?
Do it. It's the greatest thing I ever did. Something that not everyone shares with you, but it's very rewarding. Glad I did it.
What advice would you give to students who have family members currently serving?
I would say support them as much as you can. It's really hard on the family member at home, so always support your mom if your dad's gone, or nowadays your dad if your mom's gone. And know that people are there for you, and be strong. That's the best thing, I think. My kids got a lot out of it, and they will too. Thank you.
We are here with 29-year U.S. Army veteran, active Army Reserves, Mr. Piddlecoff. So the first question I want to ask you, Mr. Piddlecoff, is what would be one moment that you would say was the most, interesting to you? If you had one story you wanted to tell?
My one story? I have a lot of stories after 29 years. Probably one of the most significant stories I had, one of the most impactful stories would be when I met a former student in one of the worst places that I could ever meet her at, in the middle of Taji, Iraq. After 3 years after she graduated, I wasn't expecting to meet one of my students in the middle of a combat zone in Iraq. And she had her own amazing story, which really impacted me. But yeah.
So if there was one thing you wanted people to know about veterans or reserves, what would that be, you think?
One thing I would want to know, other people to know about veterans. I think that one of the most important parts about being a veteran, and for people to realize, is it's about the kind of sacrifice that we make. It's not all about just going to war. Mm-hmm. Being a veteran is part of it has to do with war, but it's more about the time we spend away from all the things that the average person loves, mm-hmm. our home, our family, to do a very hard job, not just for our own country, but to bring hope around the whole world, mm-hmm. and for other people to see. And that's what makes being a veteran kind of special to me, is about that time that's been sacrificed, and our families that sacrificed for the same thing. So, yeah.
Is there something you would say is the most fulfilling to you being in the Army?
I think two big things. One is on a personal level. The Army is probably the only job I've ever had, the only organization where I've ever had, where I get to choose what kind of person that I'm going to be at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. My success is totally dependent on what I'm willing to do or not do. And so I build myself. I get to design my own character, per se, right? The other piece to it is that we touch a lot of people around the world, especially being in the world of medicine. Almost my entire career going around the world, I have physically improve the quality of life of literally millions of people, and changed whole cultures around the world for the better and help people, And so I got to be in my life a positive change in the world, and I got to see that change. So I think both of those things, I get to personally grow, mm-hmm. and make myself a better person, and I got to contribute to making the world a better place.
Is there one thing you would want to tell the other people, what was your favorite place to go, if you had one? I mean, I know they're war zones, but if you had a favorite place that you went, or something that you saw.
Oh, I've been to a lot of places. Some of my favorite top list ones is when I was 18 years old, I was stationed in Germany. I was right there on the border, East-West Germany, so that doesn't exist anymore. Mm-hmm. I was a part of the history of that, so I was there before. I got to see the Berlin Wall fall down, right? I got to be a part of the unification of Germany. I got to be a part of Desert Storm and I was there at the liberation of Kuwait. I got, for just a kind of a brief thing there, I was in the Army National Guard, for Washington National Guard. I helped fight forest fires and save people's houses. For a few years I was in the U.S. Navy Reserves as a corpsman, and I got to serve on the USS Battleship Missouri, where the Japanese surrendered on that same ship back in 1945. That was a pretty significant piece of history, and I was there when they decommissioned the ship. So that was when the ship, is no longer part of it's a museum now instead of being an active ship. And then, of course, all my time of working in Central and South America, and being a part of helping the Iraqis out. So I've been in a lot of places. I don't think there's one favorite place that I would go, but my whole career has just been, to be honest, it's been amazing 29 years.
Well, we're going to thank you for your service.
Oh, thank
and
you.
Your time.
Well, as a young teenager in high school, I had a brother who had joined the Air Force. So that got me thinking, and then I joined the Civil Air Patrol, which is an auxiliary of the Air Force. Spent 5 years with them, so it made me want to have an Air Force career.
Okay. What was your favorite place that you have traveled to?
Well, I guess I'd have to say two. I spent 4 years in Hawaii, so who wouldn't like that?
Yeah.
But I also spent some time in Southeast Asia, several years in Southeast Asia, and it kind of gave me a different perspective of what the world looks like.
What was your most uplifting moment while serving in the Air Force?
I would have to say during the first Gulf War, I was with a test unit in California, and I was tasked to head a team to develop a new weapon that everybody knows about now called the bunker buster. So we had 3 days to develop that, which we did at Nellis Air Force Base in California, and shipped them over to the Middle East. So that was a pretty important task.
Yeah. Okay. Finally, how has serving in the military shaped who you are today?
It's made me more tolerant of different cultures, and it certainly has made me more appreciative of what we as Americans have here in the United States. From traveling around the world and seeing how other countries live, especially third world countries, we have more than most people in the world. So it certainly makes you appreciate what you have.
Alrighty, well that's it. Thank you for your time and thank you for your service.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I'm here with Mr. Broker. Mr. Broker, my first question for you is, what branch of the military did you serve in and for how long?
I served in the Army for 2 years.
What was your job?
I was a medical record specialist and also a company clerk.
What made you want to join the military?
I got drafted.
What was your most memorable / prideful moment?
Probably when I served overseas in Korea. I was over there for 13 months and got to see a lot of different cultures and so on, and a lot of good memories from over there.
What was your favorite place you traveled to while in service?
Probably San Antonio, Texas.
North Thurston High School students and staff would like to thank you for your service to our country. Veterans and military service people currently serving are the reason we can celebrate and enjoy all the wonderful freedoms we have in this country today. Thank you.
At this time, students, we have 2 different activities that we'd like you to help us with in thanking and recognizing veterans. Your advisors have red and blue paper. If you have a veteran who is a family member, you put their name on a red piece of paper. If you have a friend of the families, someone that you know in the neighborhood, anybody else that you know that is a veteran, put their name on a blue piece of paper, and then bring those down to the Commons during lunch or during your advisory. You can send them down so we can put them up on our recognition wall so we can recognize all of those who know veterans in our community. So again, red is for veterans that are family members of yours, and blue are for friends that you know that are veterans. Put their name on them, thanking them, and get those down to us during lunchtime today, and we'll get them up on the wall. Also, our Interact Club is involved in putting together care packages for active military members, and they'd like you to help them by writing letters to military members. On your letters to your military members, if you would like to write those, make sure that the salutations on those are generic. It simply says, "Dear Service Member." You can sign them either at North Thurston, or you can sign them with your name on them. And you can also bring those down during lunch any day this week to the Commons, and there'll be a box that you can drop those off, and the Interact Club will include those in their care packages that they're going to be sending to military members over the holidays. So thank you again, and thank you to all of our veterans.